The Moto G Stylus is one of the very few phones that come with a built-in stylus, but that's not the only thing it has going for it. Hello guys, my name is Vic with PhoneArena, and this phone delivers surprisingly good loudspeaker quality, decent photos and great battery life. So here is this review in a nutshell. The Moto G Stylus is a good option for people on a tight budget as it covers all the fundamentals well enough despite the low cost. But let's look at the details, shall we? First, it's a pretty big phone. Its 6.4-inch display is framed by thin bezels all around, and there is a tiny hole punch camera for an overall modern look. But it's not a small phone by any means, and it definitely feels extra thick, and also a bit on the heavy side. Now the back is made of plastic and glossy one that catches fingerprints like a magnet. But in terms of durability, it's very solidly put together. Nothing twists or squeaks or bends. It's a well put phone. The only available color option we have is Mystic Indigo, a combination of an inky dark blue with lighter shades of blue. And yes, there's a headphone jack as well. Next up, the screen. It's a 6.4-inch LCD screen, and it's probably the weakest side of this phone. It just doesn't look great. Now it's not bad per se, but colors are a bit on the cold side with a noticeable blue tint, and viewing angles are also quite poor. Tilt the phone slightly and the screen gets dimmer and colors fade too. Again, this is a budget phone, but for a similar price you can actually get a phone with a beautiful AMOLED screen like the Galaxy A51, or if you jump a bit in price to the Pixel 4a, you can also get a great AMOLED screen. And the Moto is probably not your best choice if you want a great display. Now one bright spot quite literally here is, well, the brightness, which can go super high and makes it easy to see the screen well even under bright sunlight. Okay, enough about the screen. What about that stylus? After all, the stylus is the reason why you might buy this phone. It's on the right side, which is the more convenient side, and unlike Samsung's flashy S Pen, this one doesn't click. You need to kind of chop it out of its place, which is not super convenient, but again, not a deal breaker. Now the stylus itself is quite small and thin. It's okay for jotting down notes, but if you consider drawing or doing creative work with it, just forget about it. The phone doesn't have proper palm rejection, and on most of my notes I have a few spots drawn accidentally by my palm, not the stylus. And then there's also the latency, as this stylus is just slow and prone to errors because of its poor latency. Again, all of that is not a deal breaker for the casual user. If you just want to jot down a few notes, that's useful, but if you want more than that, the Moto G Stylus is just not good enough. Okay, next up, let's talk about it as just a smartphone. For security, you have a fingerprint scanner on the back, cleverly hidden behind the Motorola logo here. We had no issues with it. It worked quite good and accuracy was decent. You also have an image-based 2D face unlock feature, which is very fast and pretty convenient too. Motorola advertises the Moto G Stylus triple camera system as best in class. What we have here is a 48 megapixel main sensor, 16 megapixel ultra-wide camera, and a 2 megapixel macro shooter. So what's missing is a telephoto lens. Also yes, the Moto G Stylus has an ultra-wide camera, but interestingly, it's used only for video, and you cannot take ultra-wide photos with it, which is just weird and a bit disappointing. Okay, but how do photos turn out with the main camera? Oh, not bad, but best in class? Well, maybe not. The camera is a bit on the slow side, so you need to have an extra steady hand when you're shooting with it. It captures a good amount of detail, but colors and the images lack vibrancy and excitement and look a bit on the dull side. Still, we took a few portrait shots and a few selfies that turned out quite good. So you have to be extra patient with it, but you can get good results with this camera. Now in low light again, you need to have a steady hand, and detail appears a bit smudgy here, but photos are okay for a budget phone. Speaking of video, the phone shoots wide-angle 1080p videos, and the cool thing is that you can hold the phone vertically and it takes horizontal videos. Now those videos have a good amount of detail, but the big issue is stabilization, as it's just not there and footage appears very jerky. Okay, we have been a bit critical of the Moto G Stylus, But one area where it absolutely blows us away is the audio department. The stereo loudspeakers here are absolutely insane. YouTube, music, podcast, the smartphone makes them come alive. Now the smartphone uses the earpiece together with the bottom speaker, and combined they offer a boomy stereo sound with clarity and definition you can rarely hear in a phone, let alone a budget phone. Plus, if you don't want to disturb people around you, the headphone jack again is here, so that's nice to have. The Moto comes with Android 10 and some familiar Motorola features like the flick to open the camera, double tap to start the flashlight. Under the hood, the Snapdragon 665 powers the show, and this combined with just 4GB of RAM. And this is just barely enough. In daily use, the phone feels just a bit stuttery and a bit slower to respond than most other phones. Not a deal breaker, but something to keep in mind. At least you do get a plentiful 128GB of internal storage for your photos and videos. Now the good thing here is battery life. Keeping the lights on is a 4000 mAh battery cell which can comfortably last you a day and a half and even 2 days, just as Motorola says. Now if you're playing games though, expect the phone to die much quicker. On the charging front, the phone supports 15-watt fast charge which can top up the phone in less than 2 hours, and that's good enough for a budget phone. So if you're interested in buying the Moto G Stylus, you can get it for a price of around $270 at the time of this video, and you can find the link to it in the description box below where you'll find a great deal on it. Outside the United States, the phone is known under the Moto G Pro name, but it's the same phone, so keep that in mind. Your alternatives in the budget segment are the Galaxy A51 for example, with its sleek styling and OLED display. And if you jump a bit in price, you can get the Pixel 4a with its class-leading camera and again a good-looking screen. But if you want that stylus, you want the excellent battery life, you appreciate the audio quality, well, the Motorola is not a bad choice. And that concludes our review of the Moto G Stylus. Don't forget to also check us on the web at PhoneArena.com where you'll find a lot more detail. Subs to the channel are appreciated, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.